bag at the start of the batch and keep the bag next to the fermenter to make sure I get it all into one batch. I like that idea, Steve. That's a great idea. I'm always like got both of them there, and I'm going, crap. How much of it was of which one was what?
Did I forget and I put that in the wrong one? Yeah, no, that never
exactly.
happened.
That's what I do, and it's like it never occurred to me to mix them together. I guess I just thought you couldn't, back when I first started learning about that, and then got in the habit of not doing it, So I'm gonna start doing that. that's gonna simplify.
Every once in a while that a little crutch like that helps a lot in getting it right.
Well, and it's just one less thing you can screw up. That's the thing.
Yep.
I mean, especially if you're, if you get distracted in the middle of pitching, which happens, maybe the phone rings or your kid needs you or whatever, which I don't have the kid problem anymore, but still, if you can create a path to success that's a lot easier to follow, for me, the stirring you were saying earlier, I would get up, make my tea, and while I was standing there drinking my tea, I'd get out my drill, and I always had a big jar, like a 2-gallon jar full of Star Sand, and I would dunk my spinner and cluck it onto the drill, and then pop the top and put that in there while I drank my tea. I just start going zzz, and running up my mead.
Yep.
I
think the most frequently used thing in my brewery meadery is the Star Sand. I make like a 2.5-gallon batch of it at a time because the little measure thing on the Star Sand jar, half ounce makes 2.5 gallons of solution. I just put it in a food grade bucket with the lid on it, and anything I need to sanitize, dip it in, I'm ready to go. It's like you don't need to fill containers; you just need to get it wet. And I have a spray bottle full of it as well.
Yeah, I haven't always used the spray.
It's always being used. It's amazing how long a batch of Star Sand will last.
It really is, yeah. I mean, I've got these big glass, I guess you'd call them, they look like cookie jars. So they're giant glass jars, and they're what I use to do my living history demos because they're clear glass, so people can see what I'm doing. Mm-hmm. So I'll be mixing honey or making a beer or a ginger ale or limoncello or something, and they can see what's going on in there, and it makes for a pretty display too. But I keep them around the house because I'll take the big one, fill it with Star Sand when I'm in process, and then I can just put the sealable top on it, and I can just go back to that whenever I need it. But the spray bottle thing was something I hadn't been doing, and that's something I think I'm gonna do.
Yeah, it makes it a lot easier. Oh, I got this, wand I need to sanitize. Okay, spray it. Doesn't take long for Star Sand to work. That's the nice thing about it.
Mm-hmm. And don't fear the foam.
Yep.
Yeah, or the cloudy.
Don't have to rinse.
Nope. I always thought you did. It never occurred to me not to rinse, and then one day I was using it and actually read the back of the bottle, and it says,
"Oh,
rinse."
wow.
So I was like, "Oh, duh," because I'd been using, before Star Sand, I used something you did have to rinse, so it was just habit.
Yeah. Yep.
Yeah, I used to use the
bleach, for example.
Stuff. That's it, the iodine.
Oh, yeah,
stuff.
I still have a bottle of that around as well because I have a couple things that, explicitly tell me they are not supposed to be sanitized with Star Sand. Aluminum.
Okay.
And Star Sand reacts with it.
Right.
But I don't have much of that kind of stuff. Yeah. It's nice to just have a bucket full of it, whenever you need it.
Absolutely.
So what's on the upcoming list for you?
Oh, let's see. I've got some Arizona Desert Blossom pecan kind of honey that a friend got me, and I got some mesquite honey that I need to ferment, and some black mangrove honey, and
black mangrove. That sounds interesting.
Yeah, you only find that in South Florida.
What's it taste like?
It's hard to describe, I guess. It's not real distinctive. It's kind of a slightly woody, I guess I would say. But it's not really easily identified, I guess you would say.
Okay. Is it a darker honey or a lighter honey? Or
it's kind of... The mead's going to be dark amber, probably.
Okay. I've never seen black mangrove honey, so that's
you can find it in South Florida. The other one, which I have not ever acquired enough to even dream of making a mead with, is sea grape.
Yeah, I've heard about sea grape. I've seen it in little bitty jars, but I've never tried it.
Yeah, and I didn't really want to make a 4-ounce batch of mead. That just seemed like way too much work for low yield.
4-ounce batch. Here's a glass of mead.
Yeah.
You just make it in a beer stein. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. It just seemed like didn't seem like it was satisfying.
Right. And this glass cost me $75 to make.
Yeah.
Well, that's kind of like, it's I love Tupelo Blossom, but it's the price of that honey is like obscene.
That's because the harvest has been horrible.
Yes, I know. And the harvest was particularly bad yet again.
Was it? Yeah,
I think
that's like 5 years in a row almost.
Yeah, 5 or 6 years.
Yeah, I think you're right.
David Webb was hoping that he could get his hands on it, and he's been asking me, how's the crop? And I'm like, I'm not there. I don't know.
Well, I think last I heard, one of the mead-making guys in the club had checked with Smiley's in Florida, and I think they were saying they got like 3 barrels of Tupelo honey this year, and it was going to, if they sold any in large containers, it would be $150 a gallon.
Yeah, Sleeping Bear Farms up in Michigan, which is St. Ambrose Winery, he runs like 1,200 hives up and down the coast and out to California, and they've actually got a processing facility down in Florida, and one of the crops that they do is the Tupelo, and he said, it was just abysmal this year, just terrible. They probably won't even be able to make their Tupelo mead, at least in any quantity because of that.
Yeah. Yeah. I love Tupelo mead. That's one varietal I just love.
Oh God! Yeah.
And I'm just not. I still have.
I have a 1-gallon jug of that at home that I got years and years and years ago. So I've been sitting on it.
I have enough that I could probably make a hydromill left in a bucket, and it's just like precious anymore.
Yeah, I live driving distance from Be Natural, the organic honey producer, and they have these huge. I always go down in September at the beginning of the mead making season down here, and I always go down there to buy a 5-gallon bucket of orange blossom. And for the last 4 or 5 years, I've said, "So Tupelo this year?" And they're like, "Nope, not going to happen."
Yeah. Yep.
And that mangrove honey is becoming kind of like the Sasquatch of the honey world. Also, I haven't seen it in a long time either.
Oh, I found it actually in the little farmers market kind of thing in Fort Myers.
Oh yeah, yeah, but not in quantities that you can make mead from. I would imagine.
Oh no, they had it in gallon jugs.
Oh yeah. Oh.
Yeah.
I'm going to go west.
It either comes from Walker in Fort Myers or the Curtis Honey in LaBelle, Florida. One or the other. I forget which one it comes from.
Gonna have to do some driving. Yeah. That mangrove honey's nice if you can get your hands on it.
Yeah. Yeah, I haven't tried Brazilian pepper, which is kind of, unfortunately available in Florida because it's taken over everything because it's basically an invasive species. But
have you ever had any of the honey you ever had any of the Aussie honeys, Australian honeys?
No, I haven't.
Hamish was doing some tastings at the Mazer Cup this year. It was amazing. They were really good. Ham, you still there?
Yeah, I'm here. And the maid that I got gold with, got comments such as, it's like nothing I've ever tasted and things like that. So it's very interesting that we've been trying to work out for a long time on gut mead and things like that, what you're talking about when you're talking about honeys and trying to relate it to our honeys, only to find out that you've got no idea about honeys and you don't have any idea what they taste like, because they're completely different. And I was a bit surprised that there's no real equivalent there.
Yeah, I know there have been a couple times judging at competitions. It's, quick pull out your phone or, whatever. And back in the day when you couldn't do that, it's like, well, anybody ever heard of this honey? No.
We had that with carrot honey last year at the Mazer Cup. It's like, has anybody ever had carrot honey? We're like yelling across the room. Somebody's like, well, I heard that there was such a thing, but no, I've never, so we had to all look it up.
Yeah, we had one, I think it was last year at HA National second round where, the mead made it to, our table, second round, and, it's listed as peach blossom honey. And we're going, huh? Well, I never heard of that. You do a quick look and, okay, not even listed on National Honey Board site. Okay. And, dig a little deeper. Well, there are a few people selling it, but it probably really isn't peach blossom. The peach growers say, no, the bees never come by our flowers. They are self-pollinating. The guy, and I'd put that comment on there, by the way, peach blossom appears not to be but the actual varietal honey. We gave it a very high score, and I think it went to Mini Boss anyway. But I know it's a very nice mead, but I think, he eventually emailed me then a photo of the, jug that he bought of honey that did say it was peach blossom honey. But, from what we found, it's like, well, yeah, there are some people that say, oh, yeah, it's peach blossom honey, but it was, an orchard that had peaches and apples both.
Uh-huh.
And so it was probably apple blossom honey.
Yeah,
and the peaches were flowering, therefore, obviously, the honey is from the peaches, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Jaden Birchmore.
It's like corn honey.
Yeah. Jaden Birchmore is asking if you would talk about oaking.
Okay. Oak, on the revised BJCP guidelines, oaking is, tolerable in any mead. That doesn't necessarily make it special. And so oaking is perfectly acceptable in meads. You just don't want to make it to the level where it's going to taste like you're, breathing the exhaust fumes from a sawmill. And so oak has this nice advantage. It's going to add, a little tannin and some other obscure compounds to your mead, and that can really help with the balance, or it can put you over the top too far. The thing in oaking, a lot of people tend to go overboard. Think like the typical American Chardonnay from California, at least from a few years ago, that people just found to be over oaked beyond belief.
Oh yeah, well it's like what they've done.
You don't want to do that
lately.
To your mead.
Yeah, they take it to extremes.
You want it to be a component, but not a dominant part. And that's the subtlety, the nuance of making those kind of things. You just be careful, monitor closely as you're doing it, and take it off the oak before it becomes dominant. Because the only way you can fix that if you go too far is you're going to have to blend. You can't take it back out. I've actually aged. I think I did a mesquite mead in a used bourbon barrel. It was the first use of the barrel after the bourbon came up. That turned out really nice.
Ooh, I bet that was nice.
And bourbon barrels tend to have a really significant complexity to the oak because there's a lot of toast in bourbon barrels that may or may not be in other forms of oak. I think a big part that changes the nuances of oak for people is the toast level. If you just take plain oak untoasted, it's a much different animal than oak that's actually been charred like it would be in a bourbon barrel or toasted like it would be in a wine barrel.
Mm-hmm.
And that really changes how you're going to perceive that oak. And I think part of it comes with experience and just knowing what's going to work in your mead, and knowing when to stop. Don't go overboard. and experimenting. I mean, you can play